Hello and welcome to the Big Picture with me, Ishan Russell. Today we focus on the winter session of Parliament that begins from Thursday. The first 2 days we'll see a commemoration of the adoption of the Constitution. The real legislative business would start from Monday. Now, if the previous session or even the run-up to this session are anything to go by, then this promises to be a rather stormy one. The communication between the government and the opposition has become rather cold. The government wants to push through its reform ideas and legislation, and the opposition is quite adamant on discussing intolerance and other issues it says is of national importance. So what can we expect in the winter session of Parliament? Answering those questions for you today, we have Tarun Vijay, Rajya Sabha MP of the BJP, Rajeev Gowda, Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament and spokesperson of the Congress Party. Political editor of the Hindustan Times, Mr. Vinod Sharma, is also here with us in the studio. Mr. Sharma, I'll start with you first. As far as the winter session, what can we really expect? Because as far as the noises go, everybody says that we want smooth functioning of the House, we want discussion, we want debate. But what can we expect?
Well, I think I'm a bit optimistic this time for the simple reason that, yes, of course, the opposition has scored a major victory in Bihar, but that victory largely comes from a very responsible campaign that was run by Nitish Kumar and his other two allies. And I think that they should build on that success and on goodwill. You see, the main legislation that is pending before Parliament is the GST. And on GST, the Congress cannot be holding back the legislation beyond a point, because this law is going to benefit a whole lot of states which are consuming states, and Bihar is one, and many other states where the opposition parties are in power are also consuming states.
Right.
So I personally feel that there could be a breakthrough. I'm more encouraged. I'm quite encouraged today by the participation of the Prime Minister in the all-party meeting, and he also addressed the all-party meeting, which is perhaps a first since May 2014. And in the previous all-party meeting, he did not show up. So I thought this is a positive step, and he has expressed the hope that the GST, there would be some meeting ground on the GST, and
Right.
there's been some overtures from the government to the opposition. Now let's see what's the meeting ground on, what are the terms and conditions on which they agree, whether they agree at all.
All right. In fact, we'll put that question to the representatives of the political parties that we have over here. And Mr. D. Raja of the CPI has also joined us in the studio. Thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Raja. Mr. Rajeev Gowda, we've been talking about the GST, as Mr. Vinod Sharma was pointing out, that for the NDA government, that's the key legislation. And as we heard the Congress party's representatives speaking today, Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad also saying that the GST was your bill first, you drafted it. So in a sense, is the GST the meeting point where perhaps we could see smooth functioning of the House this time around?
Well, actually, when you want to think about the smooth functioning of the House, I'd like you to think back to the budget session and how both houses worked for more than 100% of the time. A number of bills were passed. So it is not as if the opposition is out there being obstructionist, as these people like to allege. Essentially, when the government reaches out, works out compromises that are in the nation's interest, then the parliament functions. So in the context of the GST as well, just like our leader, Mr. Azad, has pointed out, it is our bill. These are the people who opposed it when they were in the opposition. Now we are all focused on trying to come up with a GST bill that works for the country. So there are 2-3 key conditions that we have put forward. It's now up to the government to work out a negotiation on how are we going to address our concerns. And if our concerns are addressed, we will certainly see the GST passed. It is something that we initiated in the interest of the nation. We want to see it pass. And so this could well be one of the key issues that will that this session will be remembered for, the passage of the GST.
All right, the passage of the GST, that's an interesting point. So there seems to be a headway that is happening on that. Mr. D. Raja of the CPI, is there headway as far as the opposition unity is concerned? Do you share the concerns of the Congress party as far as the GST bill is concerned? And what do you expect from this winter session of Parliament?
Actually, I was present in the all-party meeting convened by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu. This issue was raised. It is on the list of business also, what government wants to take up. When the reference was made to GST bill, on behalf of the government, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, has informed. He has told us that Finance Minister Mr. Arun Jaitley will reach out to the parties who have certain concerns or differences to iron out what are the differences still there. So let us see what Mr. Arun Jaitley is going to do. As far as GST bill is concerned, I can share with you. The bill was referred to the Select Committee in Rajya Sabha. I was a member of that Select Committee, and Congress Party has given a dissent note. The left parties, CPI, CPM, we have given a dissent note. Our main dissent is about how to protect the federal character of our governance and centered state relations. Because GST, the purpose of GST, the primary purpose is to create a common market, one market and economic integration. That is the primary purpose. When it is done, as my good friend Vinod Sharma has been saying, consuming states, then there are interests about producing states also, manufacturing states. They should not get affected. That concern is also there, because it is a terrain unknown. We are entering into such a terrain, and we should look beyond today's position. We will have to think of implications, far-reaching implications, long-term implications. That's what. So there are some concerns. Government should be with open mind. Government should be more accommodative and accepting certain vital, valid concerns expressed by parties in opposition. Then things can move forward.
All right, and we have a BJP Member of Parliament, Tarun Vijay, with us. We're just having a bit of an audio problem, so we're not able to get through to him. But Mr. Sharma, putting this question to you about the fact that what Mr. Raja was pointing out, that there is willingness to move forward, but should this ground have been created much earlier? Should this conversation have happened much earlier?
Yes, of course. It should have happened much earlier. You see, though the GST the authorship of the GST belongs to the UPA regime, the GST with the transition of power from the UPA to the BJP has become a bit of a baggage of history, and that baggage of history has to be sorted out. The 3 points that have been raised by the Congress relate to the 1% surcharge which is being levied. The Congress thinks that this is a distortion because the GST is meant to subsume all taxes. And then there is a problem with the GST Council, whether that should be the arbitrator instead of an independent authority. That is one sticking point. And then there is the third point, which perhaps relates to the what I just forget, but there is
Constitutional amendment, 18%?
No, yeah, yes, of course. That the Congress wants a ceiling on the GST at 18%. Now, that is where in today's papers we have read that the Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, has drawn a line that will be self-defeating, because there could be situations in future where you may need to make it more than 18%, and then it would require an entire process of constitutional amendment and then ratification by 50% of state assemblies. But I think that this point, these 3 points were adumbrated by Mr. Chidambaram, former finance minister, in a letter that he sent to Mr. Arun Jaitley in August this year. So, but I think that this could be that letter and also the dissent note and also the dissent note on the left, they could be the working papers on the basis of which there could be negotiations between the opposition.
Is it too late for negotiations? Because the government then, if it not passed in this particular session, the government misses the deadline.
There's never, it is better late than never. You see, they'll have negotiations will have to precede the passage
All right.
of the legislation.
We get in Tarun Vijay, Rajya Sabha, a member of Parliament of the BJP. Thank you very much for coming in, Mr. Vijay. Finally, we get through to you. But that's the point being raised over here, that these negotiations, these discussions, as far as the GST are
What do you mean
concerned, could
finally?
have happened much earlier. Consensus building could have happened much earlier. We had that all-party meeting today. We have 2 days, tomorrow and day after, where the Parliament meets. And then from Monday, when the real legislative business starts, can we expect a breakthrough? Is the government trying for that?
Of course, we hope so, because we are very confident. Every party feels that GST bill is very important for the country, and we have appealed that the country's interest and the people's interest should weigh more than the individual parties' interest and our own ideological interests, because India is supreme and everyone believes that GST is a need of the hour. Congress says that it's their baby, let it be. So let everyone come together and pass a bill which will benefit the people of India. We have appealed, and Mr. Arun Jaitley has also said that they are ready to consider all the viewpoints, and we are hopeful that this time it will not be an obstructionist viewpoint, or Parliament will be allowed to function.
Right.
And in a spirit of togetherness, we'll be passing several bills, including the prevention of atrocities on scheduled caste and scheduled tribe bill.
Right.
Many important bills are waiting. So we hope that it will be an enriching and first time in the history of post-independence history, we'll be discussing constitution and celebrating the observing 125th anniversary of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, his vision, his dreams, especially for the scheduled caste people.
Right.
About Dalit empowerment, about atrocities on Dalits. There are various issues, including price rise,
Indeed, various
including
issues.
the tolerance
Mr. Raja, I wanted to come in.
debate.
No, this is the problem. BJP should change this attitude or approach, because when we raise certain concerns, it doesn't mean we do not have nation's interest. We are also for the nation. And
I think he's saying that everybody is
no,
together.
that's what all parties, when they raise certain concerns, dissents, the government should have open mind to consider why these concerns are raised, or these issues are raised.
Right.
That is one thing. I agree with him. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, the Parliament will be discussing the Constitution, the contribution of Dr. Ambedkar, because the 2 days have been dedicated to commemorate the adoption of the Constitution, the 125th birth anniversary of Dr. Ambedkar. And when we talk of Constitution, who are the forces posing
No, I have to
threat
reply to
the
Mr. Raja.
Constitution?
Yeah, I'll let
because
you,
he
Mr.
has
Vijay. I'll
raised
let
the
you, Mr.
issue,
Vijay. Go ahead.
which is
when
not
we
correct.
discuss
I'll let you, Mr. Vijay.
When we
I would
discuss
like to, because you know,
we should
why-
uphold the constitution. Now there is an issue called growing intolerance.
Yes, and
who are the forces?
Okay.
Even I quote the Prime Minister. Prime Minister says the unity, peace and harmony are prerequisites for the development of the nation. Who are the forces
Okay.
who are working against the unity of the country, the peace in the country and harmony in society?
All right, and that
we
is
should
one question.
identify those
Intolerance
forces.
is something that the Congress and the left parties have also put notices up for. So, Mr. Rajeev Gowda, as far as the intolerance question is concerned, we had Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi once again targeting the Prime Minister over this particular matter. And last time around in the monsoon session as well, because the opposition wanted a certain statement from the Prime Minister and the government wasn't willing to do that, we saw this entire session being washed out. As far as the opposition is concerned and that issue of intolerance is concerned, what's your strategy?
Well, this is an issue that has got the whole nation in ferment. You saw the anger of the people expressed in the vote in Bihar. Essentially, the Prime Minister of India goes to Bihar and in his campaign speeches makes
What this
divisive
Rajya Sabha
statements
TV is
aimed
doing?
at polarizing.
They are not allowing me to
you know,
speak.
is the
We'll let you
is-
speak, Mr. Vijay,
is
please.
essential-
We'll just come to you. Go ahead, Mr. Gowda.
Tarunji, let me finish. Yeah. So basically, this is an issue that has got people really, really upset. It is something that has to be discussed at the highest levels in Parliament so that we get a sense of what the government's agenda is. Are they really going to work in the spirit of the Constitution or not? So that is going to be one of the key issues that is going to be center stage. Now, let me just point out on one of the other issues that came up earlier. Now, Mr. Jaitley's speeches, even today, when he uses words like preposterous, when he counters our suggestions with contempt, these are not ways in which we can work out reconciliations. Okay, there is a lot of work that the government needs to do to make Parliament function.
All right, Mr. Vijay, go ahead. You wanted to come in on various points, and one thing as far as the intolerance debate is concerned.
I just wanted to point out.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that please be tolerant to the other viewpoints also.
No,
it's absolutist attitude
now.
that
you
just want to say what you want to say and you don't want to hear what other wants to say. This is also a part of our intolerance that we want to fight out. And if we are celebrating the Constitution, it should also mean that live Constitution and realize the dreams which is enshrined in the Constitution of India. Constitution is a supreme dharma for us. So far, what has been happened that people who had been destroying the Constitution, who had been distorting the Constitution, and from outside like CPI who had been supporting the Constitution distortions in 1975, they are now telling us that we are not working according to the Constitution, and they are now telling us that how we should be behaving for the constitutional amendments. And you don't want to listen to others. This is the intolerance that you have been practicing for the last 6 decades. Now those edifices is being cracking.
My question,
so now
Mr. Vijay, my question is a very basic question that last time around the opposition on the issue of making the Prime Minister make a statement on a particular issue had ensured that the entire monsoon session gets wiped out. If such a situation arises, what's the government's strategy?
And that means that having a patience to listen to others, having a patience to understand others, having not just tolerance but appreciation for the other viewpoint. That is what Dr. Ambedkar had written. And about Dr. Ambedkar, don't tell us. He has written very clearly about the national unity and integrity and tolerance. And just read his thoughts on Pakistan. Right. He has very clearly enunciated his views that why he is embracing Buddhism and why not others. These are the views that we would like to discuss on Constitution of India and on the views and vision of Dr. Ambedkar. Democracy and pluralism must mean that you should express your views and you should stand with all wrongdoers. Kalburgi murder is bad, Pansare murder is bad, and so is Pujari murder is bad. But looking at the Tilak and Topi, then finding your expression and finding the way to have some kind of a tolerance debate, this is one-sided. This is another kind of a secular kind of a extremism. We must fight out and we must have a uniformity. We must have a universal viewpoint about understanding the national spirit and the idea of India. Idea of India has always been the pluralistic. Indian civilization is stood for pluralism.
One by one. Mr. Vijay, I'll ask you to wrap up, please.
Other people. We gave shelter. We gave shelter to the Parsis,
Mr. Vijay, I believe you've made a point. I would want to allow my other speakers to get into the conversation as well. Mr. Sharma, but this is where the differences start arising. GST is one thing that everybody is in agreement on, whether be it technical issues, but the question over intolerance, and we have two completely different tracks happening.
Can I say one thing? The 26th November 1949 was the day when the draft constitution was passed, was finalized. And then a debate happened in the Constituent Assembly on that document. And I would suggest that members from all parties who haven't read those debates should go through those debates. And those debates are a study in tolerance. They are a study in pluralism. They are a study in a sense of inquiry, incisive thinking. And when you read that, you get goosepimples that you had such men who were part of India at that time. And that's the kind of parliament India needs to rebuild. I'd request that the best tribute to Dr. Ambedkar would be, and Dr. Ambedkar most certainly wasn't the sole author of the Constitution, but surely he was the lead author of the Constitution. But the Constitution eventually was the work of the Constituent Assembly.
Right.
And I think that this parliament and any succeeding parliament do can marshal those talents, those merits, those resources to give us laws that are as inclusive as our constitution is.
Right.
So I think that there is space for all viewpoints in this country, and I quite agree that the differing viewpoints have to be tolerated and amalgamated if possible. But at times, you know, what you see is people trying to mix oil and water, which is not possible and which is also not permitted by constitution.
All right, Mr. Raja, go ahead.
I agree. We all should be concerned with the idea of India. What is the idea of India? It is democracy. India is a democracy. India is not a theocracy. India is not at all a theocracy. And I can quote Dr. Ambedkar as Mr. Tarun Vijay has been quoting Dr. Ambedkar. It is Dr. Ambedkar who has said, if Hindu Raj becomes the fact, becomes the reality, that is the calamity for the nation. That will be the calamity for the nation. It has been said by Dr. Ambedkar. So we should protect India as a nation, India as a democracy. It is not a theocracy. And now the communal fascist forces, they are instigating strife all over the country, and they are spreading hate towards
Yes, Mr. Vijay, we'll come to you. I'll give you the floor.
against each other. That should be
on
stopped.
atrocities on Dalit issue.
Forgetting the
They are tolerating
even the
atrocities on
Dalits
Dalits
and
because these
Garhwal
people
Okay, one by one, one by one.
are
yes,
anti-Dalit.
today in all party meeting also I said, when we pay tributes to Dr. Ambedkar, are we prepared to follow it up with legislative measures? One, whether government will bring a central legislation for scheduled caste subplan.
This is
Yes,
how
that's the
you
government's plan, as
allow
Mr. Vijay has
others
been
to
pointing
speak.
out.
The other thing I asked whether the government is ready to consider extending reservation to the private sector when private sector has emerged as a main component of economy. And whether we can extend reservation. So there are issues we can debate. And scheduled caste people, Garvapsi they conducted, and which caste they put the people who have come did Garvapsi. So let us not discuss. I know what is annihilation of caste, what Ambedkar has said about caste system, how to annihilate the caste system.
All right,
We can
I
debate.
want to get,
When
because we just have 2 minutes left now. Mr. Rajeev Gowda, very quickly, would you be willing, as far as the intolerance debate is concerned, that the opposition wants, to let that debate happen, sorry, not let that debate happen, but ensure that that debate happens in a manner that moves forward?
No, actually, there is a move, I think, by the Congress and other opposition parties to have a sense of the House resolution on the question of intolerance. Well, let's see whether it comes about, because the government has to agree to it.
Okay. Will the government agree to that? That will be my final question to you, Mr. Tarun Vijay, because I just have 1 minute. Sorry, Mr. Gowda.
You have just 1 minute for me, and you have all the 50 minutes for those who were telling just lies, just wrong things. I just wanted to ask one question.
Go ahead,
you
sir.
did
We'll
not
give you more
allow
time.
me.
Is
this a fair anchoring? I just want to ask one
if
thing.
he's going to waste it like this.
No, just one thing. All this tolerance debate, all these anti-national diatribes by Mani Shankar Iyer and Amir Khans, do you have any patience that any person has given award, returned award on the issue of atrocities on Dalits? Dalits are denied entry in the temples. Atrocities are committed on them. Give me one example that one author, one poet has returned award to the government in protest against atrocities on Dalits. You are anti-Dalit people. You tolerate atrocities on Tamil fishermen. Not a single person has returned award on the issue of Tamil fishermen.
I've run out of time,
people.
Mr. Vijay. I'm really
Because you
sorry. I know we were trying to get through to you earlier as
And
well.
we know which are the forces which are working against the interests of Dalits. What is happening in Haryana?
We've run out of time.
What
We've
is
run out of
happening in
time.
Haryana?
And I think this is, Mr. Raja, I'm sorry, Mr. Raja, Mr. Vijay.
In Haryana.
The Parliament starts meeting from tomorrow, and Mr. D. Raja, Mr. Rajeev Gowda and Mr. Tarun Vijay will be in Parliament from tomorrow itself discussing these issues once again. And Mr. Sharma, of course, will be coming to our studio and talking about it. But if this debate was indicative of what we can expect in the coming days, well, certainly it's your call to take. Thanks so much for watching.